have a 2004 Vibe I'm fixing now. It was a collision with a deer, typical around here. I had some inner structure damage right here, which I made one pull in this area here just to pull this back a little bit. But I had some problems in the radiator support here. It's got compound angles, and I've been measuring off of another Vibe I have that's never been in an accident. I've got this other radiator top bar from a previous job, and actually what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to section in a piece to get this right. I've been measuring, and this is rolled back a little bit, and it's got the wrong curvature, and I've just been kind of dinging on it for a while, and it's just not going to be right to fit the headlight. When the deer mangled this corner, of course I don't have any frame damage or anything, no suspension damage. It just smacked a deer right in the headlight. Didn't break the windshield or deploy the airbags. No damage to the radiator or condenser. But as the deer went down the side of the car, I guess he kind of tapped the door just a little bit. So I have a little bit of pressure that I've relieved from the door here with a slapping spoon. And I think he kind of leaned on the door a little right back here by the handle. I've got this worked out really well now. I'm just it's gonna take a small glaze of filler. He folded this lip in just a little bit, which I've been working on that. I've got it just about right. I've had the fender on and off a few times. On these Vibes, you got to be careful that there's only one spot weld on this. These Toyotas are a lot like this, and if this moves a few times, the spot weld will be weak, and this can break off very easily. So I like to tack these with the MIG welder. You got to be careful you don't start a fire inside the car. You just have to be sure that you just do a quick bzz, bzz, and then you don't walk away from your work. You don't go to lunch. You might have something smoldering. Anyway, so I'm going to drill out some spot welds in this area here. Actually, I've already put a pilot hole right here, as you can see, directly into a spot weld. I have these bits here. They're two-sided. These are popular in the auto body industry. If one goes dull or you break it, you just turn it around. So I have my pilot hole, and then in my drill here, I have this spot weld driller. This pin goes into my pilot hole, and then it drills around the spot weld and releases it. You can see here on my piece I'm going to use where I've released my spot welds. So this is what you do to get a clean breakaway on these parts. Instead of putting a chisel in there and hammering away and tearing the sheet metal, you can actually get these pieces just to release cleanly. It's very nice. Okay, when you're drilling with this Blair tool, you don't use too many RPMs. You don't want to smoke the teeth on the bit. And then I just drill as deep as is necessary to release the piece that I want to come off. And as you can see here, this is let go. And underneath this bracket, it's a sandwich. The piece I want to remove is this one, and this one's going to stay. So I left one spot weld right there because it's not part of this sandwich. So this will come apart, and then this will come out cleanly. Okay, I don't need anybody emailing me about my abuse of tools. In the early days of my auto body career, I was a commissioned body man, so time was what I got paid to do. If it was a 40-hour job and I did it in 30, I still got paid for 40. So I have what I call sacrificial tools. This is a big screwdriver that I've modified into a pry bar for reaching into panels. This tool here, which I've had for 35 years, is a slapping spoon. You use it to slap the sheet metal and to smooth it out, but it can be used as a prying tool, even though that's not what it's designed for. You can see here, I can put it in there and release these spot welds. You can hear them kind of pop. Okay, another thing about Japanese cars, most of the bolts on the sheet metal are 6mm 1.0 thread. Okay, so you take something apart and you're going to put it back together. If you're reusing your old bolts, sometimes you have some crud in your threads and especially down low on your sheet metal, down in the rocker panel areas. What I do is I put this sacrificial tap in my variable speed drill, and I clean all my holes like that before I reassemble the car. This way I don't get a bolt cross-threaded in there, or it starts to tighten up and then snaps off, because when that happens, man, you're taking everything back apart. Okay, so I have all this loose here, and in this area here, on this upright, I'm okay. So I'm going to actually section this right in this area here, and this will be a nice clean weld, and it's mostly hidden by parts. So the reason I'm doing that is to save drilling off this pod and trying to reattach it. There's multiple spot welds here. It's a real strong original structure. I don't want to disturb it. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to show you how you cut one piece on one side of a hole and the other piece on the other side of a hole, and then your original punched hole is your alignment mark for perfection when you put the two pieces. Yeah, I know a lot of people like to butt weld things, but overlap doesn't really hurt in a place like this, especially when it's hidden by parts. I prefer to cut in a situation like this with one of these air cutoff tools. Obviously you wear eye protection and hearing protection. The reason I like this, you can see I have a very thin cutting disc, is because when you use a hacksaw, your parts are moving back and forth, or if you use some kind of a trimmer, there's distortion. It's just kind of a violent way to cut. These are really clean, they slice right through, and you don't disturb the area around your cut. As I said earlier, and in my previous movies, I have this 05 Vibe that's never been in an accident, and it's been real handy. I use it to measure for repairing these other ones. So what you're looking at here is it's called a tram gauge. It's used in auto body frame repair and structure repair. But you can use it to, you compare it to your other piece, your other car, or you have specification measurements and you set these needles, and then that tells you if you're correct or not. I like these parts to just fall in just perfect. A tram gauge is not cheap, but it can be bought. They're used in truck alignment also for checking the toe across the tires. You can also use a piece of string. It needs to be a strong cord that doesn't really stretch, and you can put a little hook, make it out of a nail or something, put it in one end, on one end of the string, and you can just hook it into a hole and then pull the string and mark it with a Sharpie or something like that, and then go over to your other piece you're measuring and compare. And I'm saying I'm using another car that's never been in an accident as a model for my dimensions. Why does Jim section pieces based on a round hole? Well, as you can see here, I'm going to do a little overlap. When you put these two pieces together, like this, when you look at it, it's round, or it's not. If you move it too far, it's not a round hole anymore. So it doesn't take any measurement to know that these two pieces are aligned correctly when you're looking directly down on a round hole, because round is round. So that's my point. Now this is falling into place very nice. It's down in there in the position it's supposed to be. And then over here what I did was I cut along this body line right here where this crease is. So once I attach the other side, this will tell me this position in and out where this goes. You can see here it's pretty flexible. I want to point out in this repair, one of my objectives is not to disturb the air conditioning system. Thank you for watching my videos.